Above. This is Man and His Symbols, page 155. Continued reading. Above, the Egyptian god Thoth, Thoth, with the head of a bird, an ibis. In a relief from 350 BC, Thoth is an underworld figure associated with transcendence. It was he who judged the souls of the dead. The Greek god Hermes, who was called Psychopomp, soul guide, had the function of guiding the dead to the underworld. Left, a stone Herm, which was placed at crossroads, symbolizing the god's role as a mediator between two worlds. On the side of the Herm is a snake twined around a staff. This symbol, the caduceus, was carried over to the Roman god Mercury, right, a 16th century Italian bronze, who also has acquired wings, recalling the bird as a symbol of spiritual transcendence. Thoth, the god of occult science, of Hermeticism, of Mercury, who has an 88-day year, shortest in the solar system. Hence 88 miles per hour. In Back to the Future. Hence Trump equaling 88. Donald Darko, Donald Trump. That's coming up, part 3, very soon. This is good background information here for that presentation. Because this is what we're dealing with the PSYOP, psychological operation of central intelligence, known as the trumpet, the trump card, the Joker card. It's psychology, and it's Hermeticism, it's alchemy, it's mind control, it's dark occultism. It's using the Hermetic arts to control the minds of the masses and to keep them imprisoned within the matrix. The young man's dream came at the beginning of his life, and it pointed to his future independence and identity as a man. The woman I have described was approaching the end of her life, and she experienced a similar journey and seemed to need to acquire a similar independence. She could not live out the remainder of her days in harmony with an eternal human law that, by its antiquity, transcended the known symbols of culture. Terence McKenna, culture is not your friend. Cultor. Petri dish. But such independence does not end in a state of yogi-like detachment that would mean a renunciation of the world with all its impurities. In the otherwise dead and blasted landscape of her dream, the woman saw signs of animal life. These are quote-unquote water pigs, unknown to her as a species. They therefore would carry the meaning of a special type of animal, one that can live in two environments, in water or on the earth. This is the universal quality of the animal as a symbol of transcendence. These creatures, figuratively coming from the depths of the ancient Mother Earth, of the ancient Earth Mother, are symbolic denizens of the collective unconscious. They bring into the field of consciousness a special chthonic, or underworld, message that is somewhat different from the spiritual aspirations symbolized by the birds in the young man's dream. Other transcendent symbols of the depths are rodents, lizards, snakes, and sometimes fish. These are intermediate creatures, that combine underwater activity and the bird flight with an intermediate terrestrial life. The wild duck or the swan are cases in point. Perhaps the commonest dream symbol of transcendence is the snake, as represented by the therapeutic symbol of the Roman god of medicine, Asclepius, which has survived to modern times as a sign of the medical profession. In the middle, medical, medial, median, mediation. This was originally a non-poisonous tree snake. As we see it coiled around the staff of the healing god, it seems to embody a kind of mediation between earth and heaven. A still more important and widespread symbol of chthonic transcendence is the motif of the two entwined serpents. These are the famous Naga serpents of ancient India, and we also find them in Greece as the entwined serpents on the end of the staff belonging to the god Hermes. And early Grecian Herm is a stone pillar with a bust of the god above. On one side are the entwined serpents, and on the other an erect phallus, as the serpents are represented in the act of sexual union, and the erect phallus is unequivocally sexual. We can draw certain conclusions about the function of the Herm as a symbol of fertility. But we are mistaken if we think this only refers to biological fertility. Hermes is trickster, in a different role as a messenger, a god of the crossroads, and finally the leader of souls to and from the underworld. His phallus therefore penetrates from the known into the unknown world, seeking a spiritual message of deliverance and healing. Originally in Egypt, Hermes was known as the ibis-headed god Thoth, and therefore was conceived as the bird form of the transcendent principle. Again, in the Olympian period of Greek mythology, Hermes recovered attributes of the bird life to add to his chthonic nature as serpent. His staff acquired wings above the serpents, becoming the caduceus or winged staff of Mercury, and the god himself became the flying man with his winged hat and sandals. Here we see his full power of transcendence, whereby the lower transcendence from underworld snake consciousness, passing through the medium of earthly reality, finally attains transcendence to superhuman or transpersonal reality in its winged flight. Winged flight. Winged dragons above from a 15th century manuscript combine the transcendent symbolism of the snake and the bird, write an image of spiritual transcendence. Mahomet on the winged mare Barak flies through the celestial spheres. In dreams and fantasies of many modern people, the flights of the great rockets of space research have often appeared as symbolic 20th century embodiments of the urge toward liberation and release that is called transcendence. The pen, the one. O pen, sesame. Pen, pine, pineal gland in the mid-L. The spinal column of L going to 12 o'clock. Such a composite symbol is found in other representations as the winged horse, or winged dragon, or other creatures that abound in the artistic expressions of alchemy, so fully illustrated in Dr. Jung's classic work on this subject. We follow the innumerable vicissitudes of these symbols in our work with patients. They show what our therapy can expect to achieve when it liberates the deeper psychic contents so that they can become part of our conscious equipment for understanding life more effectively. It is not easy for modern man to grasp the significance of the symbols that come down to us from the past or that appear in our dreams. Nor is it easy to see how the ancient conflict between symbols of containment and liberation relates to our own predicament. Yet it becomes easier when we realize it is only the specific forms of these archaic patterns that change, not their psychic meaning. We have been talking of wild birds as symbols of release or liberation, but today we could as well speak of jet planes and space rockets, for they are the physical embodiment of the same transcendent principle, freeing us at least temporarily from gravity of Ray. In the same way, the ancient symbols of containment, which once gave stability and protection, now appear in modern man's search for economic security and social welfare. Any of us can see, of course, that there is a conflict in our lives between adventure and discipline, or evil and virtue, or freedom and security. But these are only phrases we use to describe an ambivalence that troubles us, and to which we never seem able to find an answer. There is an answer. There is a meeting point between containment and liberation, and we can find it in the rites of initiation that I have been discussing. They can make it possible for individuals or whole groups of people to unite the opposing forces within themselves and achieve an equilibrium in their lives. But the rites do not offer this opportunity invariably or automatically. They relate to particular phases in the life of an individual or of a group, and unless they are properly understood and translated into a new way of life, the moment can pass. Initiation is essentially a process that begins with a rite of submission, followed by a period of containment, and then by a further rite of liberation. In this way, every individual can reconcile the conflicting elements of his personality. He can strike a balance that makes him truly human and truly the master of himself. That's the end of that chapter. It was chapter 2. The next one's the process of individuation with Marie-Louise von Franz. That is the rose window of the Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris. The rose window of the Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris. Rose, anagram with Eros. Arise.